Okay, welcome very, very much to Conversations. It's a great personal honor and privilege. I'm pleased to welcome to the program one of MNN's best, and coming home after being away for a while, but that's Diane McKoy, and she's a gospel singer and also involved with the gospel music, history, and traditions of gospel relevant to American culture and that sort of thing. And she's also a member of the team here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And Diane, welcome very much.
Thank you, Harold. You know what?
What's that?
So happly to see you and be on your show.
Okay, well, I was happy to run into you
we've been friends from way back, and I have I have a little clip, but I didn't bring it with me. I wish I had.
Yeah.
And I think it's about 20 years ago.
Yeah, it could be.
That on the street you did a little skit for me.
Really?
To open up my gospel music program.
No kidding.
That's
really?
Right. That's
right there, I did a little soft shoe or something?
Yeah, and you were very good.
Was I?
And to tell you the truth, you still look very handsome. And you look in fact, you look more classy.
Well, I think I'll just sit up a little higher. I think that. Thanks, Teach. Thanks.
Now, what was your graduate school? What was your major?
Well, I did the doctoral work in geography. I happened to do. That's what I did.
I see. No wonder you can find your way around so well in the studio.
Well, I wished it was better. But anyway, that was a long time ago. But I used to fly on airplanes up to Chicago to do night schools.
Wow.
Came back one time, and the guy thought he could we're in an airplane. I don't know, a small little airplane, and we're coming back. It was all socked in, and there was no good. Bloomington's a small town. They have a little cow pasture at an airport. And we're coming down, and he's flying back, and I said, and the windshield wiper on the cockpit wasn't working. They had to work it by hand, like on an old Model A. They had to
Are you serious?
No, I'm serious. They're coming back. We're flying back from Chicago down to Bloomington, and there was a ceiling of about, 50 feet or something, and the guy was young, right? You get young men, they say, I could land this sucker on a postage stamp, don't worry.
Oh.
And I said, look, why don't we go into Indianapolis, and we could take a bus or down, because he said, don't worry. He says, now he's flying the plane that I'm on, right?
I
and he's flying, and he comes and he says, don't worry, I can land on a postage stamp. And he comes down, and Diane, he came out of the clouds. You know, the clouds are low? Yeah. And he came out of the clouds, and he comes out, and I'm looking out the window. I'm looking out the window of the car, of the airplane, and it looked out, and you know what I saw? A tree trunk. He was down at the level of the trees, and he was just feeling his way. And he went like this, and he went like this, and he went, and he came, and then we finally saw the blue lights of the little cow pasture runway, and he came in like this, and again he landed, boom, 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 boom. That was one of the flights that I had. What? I didn't enjoy that one so much.
No, but
I was white. I was drained.
But it was a successful flight.
As it happened, but just think of what that tree trunk had been.
Yeah.
Because I could see it right. The plane was level.
Yeah.
And you look out the side, and it's a tree trunk.
Wow.
Big tree, big oak, It could have, anyway, we got off on a tangent because we were talking about flying.
Oh, yeah,
you were talking about flying.
That's true.
Well, okay, anyway. Diane, please, bear with me, and would you share your own person? This is going to be the Diane McKoy Hour.
Okay.
And I want to know about when you were born, where and what you were born, education a little bit, early beginning, and then we got to get talking about the importance of gospel music.
Are
some
you
of
sure
which
you want to hear all of that
I
stuff?
want to hear the whole story, everything.
All right.
Don't hold back now.
Okay. I was born in 1990. I'm only kidding.
No. Good try. Good try.
I just said that as a joke, you know. But truthfully, I, going to school, I started singing in the church.
Good, yeah, right. Okay, good.
I started at the age of 2 years old. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Wow, okay.
I sang a solo in the church. And throughout college, I was one of the ones that would always start a gospel group.
Okay.
And in the days when I was coming up, not that it was so long ago, but it wasn't as recent as today.
Yeah.
The colleges and the high schools would always advocate that gospel music is for the uneducated.
No kidding. Is that
That's
true?
right.
Right?
And they didn't have gospel music in schools, and they didn't really respect it.
What did they have? Mozart or what? I mean,
Well,
not to put Mozart down, but you know what I mean.
That's what they
or
had.
Rock and
But
roll
they thought gospel music was for the uneducated. But I would always, in college, as a matter of fact, I went to Fayetteville State.
Where is that?
That's in Fayetteville, right near Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
That's right. I went
a lot
1
of
year
military
there.
Yeah.
And so I started one of the most outstanding gospel groups. I took the best voices from the choir. I took the soprano, the second, and it was a wonderful group. So
when you were 7, where were you, or little? Where were you singing? You said you were singing.
I was singing
in the church choir.
No, just solos.
Solos.
As a little child.
Just on your own in the backyard.
They'd call on me. No, in the church. I'd come up front.
But where? What geographical location?
It was in North Carolina.
North Carolina. You're North Carolina,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
But anyway, what was I saying?
You were talking about the putting the choirs in at the college level.
Oh yeah, and I was living at home then.
Right.
I was very young, but I'd get my car. I'd get my guardian's car. It wasn't my car because I was still in college.
Okay.
And I'd drive up at night.
Yeah.
And the college kids who were in my gospel group, they would be hiding behind a bush with the robes from the choir because we were going to sing. I had found a booking, an invitation for us to sing at a church.
Well, why were they hiding?
Because they weren't supposed to be leaving the campus.
Oh, I see. I think a lot of good things happened when people got away from what they weren't supposed to be doing.
But they were gospel music enthusiasts.
Okay, good.
And they sang outside of the college, but they lived on campus, so they weren't at their home.
I see, yeah.
So it was good. And then there was a time that we had some musicians. One musician was, there were 2 guitar players, and they sang in a family group.
Right.
And one was 7 years old, and his brother, to my recollection, he was 5.
Wow. 5-year-olds are my favorite people, I think.
Well,
love
thank you.
5-year-olds.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, right. I like the 5-year-old in all of us, as long as we can hold on to it.
You know, everybody has some childishness in them.
A lot of the good stuff there.
And some people can bring out the child in you.
Doesn't the good book say that children shall lead us somewhere or something?
Well, you know, we should have childlike spirits. And that's true about what you just said.
It's got a lot to do with creativity, I think, or a creative attitude. Could I share something with you?
No.
No? Come on.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. There was a study done by some people, and I have a lot of information sloshing around in my head.
Okay.
But this one is that it was pretty valid. You know, it's got right up there 89% validity in terms of an informal reckoning of the validity of the overall proposition. But it was a group of psychologists and so forth set about measuring what is called a creative way of being. That would be a state of consciousness, or we're creative, not. There's a lot of different things. There's rote, there's all kinds of things that are part of consciousness, but a creative way of being. And they came to the conclusion that cross-culturally across the world, and then they connected it chronologically to the age of a Homo sapien, or a person. And in cross-culture across the world, it peaked at 5. They are the most creative state of mind. They have practically, if you say, they're honest, they're totally curious, and they have practically no artifice at all. Little 5-year-olds. Did you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's really true.
Yeah,
and that's got a lot to do with the really important creative aspects of human consciousness.
That's right. They are not old enough to think about inhibitions. You know, they just, to them, there's no limit to, you know, to what they want, what they can do, and you know, that's why you have to keep your eyes on them.
You have children, or not? I don't mean to pry.
No.
I had 2. 5-year-olds I just love 5-year-olds.
Really?
You know? Or the young kids, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Anyway, so
that's why you love me. I told you that.
That's why you're a child. Yes, that's
Right.
great.
That's
I recognize that in people and like it, and lots of humor. And gospel, share with us and with the audience. So you were interested in from the time you were 2. Okay.
In gospel music. I love that. It's got a lot of soul.
It do.
A lot of feeling.
It does. It does.
And
indeed.
you know, when I was coming up, all I could hear was blues or bluegrass.
Okay. In North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Were you back in the Appalachian, or were you on the coast?
I'm now in the Appalachians.
Okay.
But it's called Appalachian.
Appalachian.
Yeah, that's the pronunciation.
I shared that thing with you the other day. I know for a fact that the closest thing to the English language that is spoken in the world, closest to Elizabethan times, is in Appalachian.
Yeah,
that's the closest thing to.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I'm almost sure that's a true fact.
Yeah, we were talking about that outside.
I mentioned that to you on another day and everything. But tell me about it. Now, the music, the gospel music, like we think in terms of jazz as an American art form, unique American art form, and it's New Orleans and Chicago, New York.
Well, you know, it's funny that you would mention Chicago. That was the birthplace of gospel music.
Beautiful. That's what I wanted to know.
And the man who coined the phrase gospel music, that was Thomas A. Dorsey.
Okay. Yeah, right. I've heard that. Yeah, right.
And he lived in Chicago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the Pilgrim Baptist Church is the first place that had gospel music after Thomas A. Dorsey had coined the phrase.
When are we talking? What time frame?
That was in the 20s, 1920s.
In the 20s.
Yes.
And were there gospel things going on in the 19th century?
Yes.
In the 17th
Yes.
century, and the roots, and like
That's
the roots of jazz. You got blues, and you got all kinds of music.
That's right. It was going on because the slaves. Used to have those spirituals when we were. I'm not a slave, but you know, when the slaves were imported, exported, or whatever you want to call it, they were brought here to America.
Right.
And when they were brought here, they had the banjo.
Yeah, they did. They brought that from Africa?
They brought the banjo.
They did, really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so, but anyway, they had, their culture was to sing because they worked hard when they got here.
Right.
And singing would lift their burdens. So they had spirituals that they had created back in Africa.
Spirituals, gospel, similar or same or different? Or what's the difference? Yeah.
You've heard the song Go Down Moses?
Oh, of course, of course.
That's a spiritual.
Sure, yeah.
And even We Shall Overcome, that's a spiritual.
Okay.
But what happened is Thomas A. Dorsey brought an influence to the spirituals and to the some of the hymns. You know, he put some blues influence to it, gave it a feeling, gave it a beat, and the church people went crazy. They said, "You're going straight to hell because that is not gospel music," and they fought him and fought him.
Wait a second. He put I think you're talking to 20 Chicago.
Right.
And the gospel thing in the churches. What about 19th century in the churches or in the gatherings? Were there spirituals? Was there what would be called legitimate roots of gospel or gospel?
Yes.
Back earlier times, 17th century, 18th century.
But that's what I'm telling you. It took on a new influence when Thomas A. Dorsey, when he added that blues influence.
So he sort of melded them, right?
That's right. Okay. And so what I want to tell you now is that gospel music has been growing, advancing with various influences. And that's the important thing I want to get to.
Okay, good.
When people say gospel music, there are so many subgenres, which means there's so many styles. What kind of gospel music?
Okay.
You can have Southern gospel.
Right. Okay.
Jazz gospel.
Jazz gospel.
Bluegrass, country. And these
gospel. You got
gospel.
the thing. You got those things. You understand that jazz, bluegrass, country, as a separate genre, but then you put gospel connected to it. It's a combination of those things.
Well, the gospel that most people are familiar with is the soul gospel, which is called traditional gospel. It's the traditional sound of gospel music.
Okay.
But it's not the tune that makes it a gospel song.
It's
the words.
It's like poetry?
It's the words of faith, the words of hope, the words of eternal life, praise to God. It's not words that bring you down into a hopeless situation like the blues.
Try to raise you above it. Yeah.
Yes, lift you up. So when you you have this. You can do it in any style you want to.
Okay, and the link between spiritual and gospel, you make a distinction between the two? Are they blend, or are they different, or do they blend? How does that work? Because
Well,
they're both learning, they're leaning on the Lord and things
That's
like
right.
that. They've got a faith in a religious understanding
That's
of the
right,
universe.
and that's
all
a
that.
very good question.
Some people wrote the blues didn't have that kind of a faith,
That's right.
even though they were out in those fields working like slaves, because they were in
They
all
were.
of that ungodly situation in which they were placed.
The slaves hadn't heard about, it wasn't time for Thomas A. Dorsey's influence, so the spiritual served as gospel music, but the phrase gospel music had not been coined.
So they were more or less spiritual.
They were spirituals. Now they can be referred to as gospel in the spiritual genre, spiritual songs, you know. And so anyway, it's been growing and growing and growing. And now you can hear gospel music in many, many, many subgenres. However, we have to let you know that the American culture is knitted with the fabric of gospel music, the hip hop and all the popular music.
That's interesting. Yeah,
it stemmed all the way back from gospel. There was a feeling there.
But it wasn't called gospel back in the 18th, 19th century?
No,
it was
Thomas A. Dorsey coined it in the 20s.
Okay, so the gospel, as that, is relatively recent, but it goes back. What was the attitude toward of the slave masters and whatnot and all that kind of stuff toward these gospel utterings and songs that would be coming out, and the attitude they had toward the slaves who cottoned on? I know they had a thing of Santeria down in, it was Yoruba, down in Cuba.
Tell us about that.
Well, they brought religious traditions from Yoruba, of Yoruba, and then there's a thing, and then they were made to become Christians.
I see.
But they had their own spiritual beliefs and so forth. And then in Cuba, they called Santeria, and it's where they would sort of, in a sense, put Jesus on top of their own view. They had Chango, and they had other gods, some demigods that were part of their, and their music and a culture around it and everything like that.
I see.
So it was a blending of cultures where one thing was being forced upon people who had lived with a different tradition. It happens a lot in history.
Yes.
But that's a different kind of thing. But they would do it in order to make it seem like it was Christian, but they were really worshiping the traditional Yoruba traditional songs and movements and things like that, but they did it with a camouflage on Christianity on top, because there was a conversion there that happened, right? So you had that going. What was the attitude of the slave masters back in the slave days toward people singing gospel, or it wasn't gospel, it was spiritual.
Right, that's
and
right.
then some others might be might be singing the blues or something.
That's right.
Or playing a harmonica. But you say the banjo came from Africa.
That's right, it did.
So
It came.
what was the attitude, as far as you know? Or
Well,
been
as
able
far
to...
as I know, the slaves had ways of communicating through songs.
Yes,
They would
absolutely.
communicate with each other.
Sure.
And so the slave masters could not understand it.
Right, that you would have to camouflage it.
That's right.
Right,
That's right. And many times, though, some of them enjoyed hearing whatever it was that was going on.
It was beautiful.
Yeah,
For one thing, it was beautiful. Yeah, right.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And so college choirs were singing spirituals, but they did not respect gospel. That's the funny thing. You know?
Because it was sort of as ragtime, or it was jazzy or something, or it was too secular, maybe?
No, it was just too, it didn't have any sophistication.
Didn't have sophistication in their
view,
if like you're classical. Or,
like this, but
in
the gospel, you move
it.
You move it.
Yeah.
Even if you have the banjo, it's just real good picking, you know.
Yeah, right.
Well, now there are college choirs who have gospel music as one of their main, what do you call,
course studies or major?
Electives.
Elective, elective, yeah.
And they even travel, like Fisk University. They have a great gospel choir that travels throughout the country.
Well, gospel is huge now, isn't it?
Of course.
There was somebody named Cleveland.
James Cleveland had written over 2,000 gospel songs.
No kidding.
But this is what I want to tell you.
Yeah.
They give him credit for being one of the, he paved the way for the gospel singers. But the funny thing about James Cleveland is that he was given a chance by Albertina Walker.
No kidding. Okay.
And Albertina Walker, at one of the awards, she received the James Cleveland Award.
Good. Good.
And she said, "Let me set the record straight."
Yeah.
I gave him a chance.
Good. Good.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's a little bit, you know, unsettling if I give you a chance in gospel and then I come and receive an award in your honor.
Yeah, right, right. I think that's going on in human history, that kind of thing.
But
it's
anyway,
good,
we have people who paved the way in gospel, like Mahalia Jackson.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
She
yeah.
was a way paver.
Uh-huh.
And but many of the traditional black gospel singers, many years ago, they traveled because they were passionate about gospel music. They could have been rock and roll singers, but something in them wouldn't. Well, some of them did leave, like, you know, Sam Cooke and Johnny Taylor, who was, well, a lot of them did leave.
Yeah, there were a lot of different.
There were a lot, but the reason the others stuck is because they had a passion for gospel music, and you can only sing it if you have a passion for it.
You can.
You can sing it only if you have.
Why?
Because that's what it is.
It's the belief system that gives you an inspiration.
Music of the heart. So anyway, they travel.
Well, that's an interesting
Yes,
concept.
it is.
What about a guy who's wailing that his baby left him, his lady friend? He left, he's all bluesed out.
Well, that ain't
he's
gospel.
really feeling that.
Well, that's
no, but he's feeling it.
But it's not music about faith and hope and eternal life.
Well, he could be singing, "My baby gonna come back to
Yeah,
me."
but that's
but he's really
sadness.
feeling is what I'm
But
saying.
that's why it's blues.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to the river, jump overboard, and drown.
That's
you
true.
want to look toward a life that has brightness and sunshine and a future and a vision.
Particularly when things are so dark.
That's right.
I think it came out of, and the real art form of America, I don't know if there's any other, I suppose there are some things and everything, but the real art form that is definitely recognized, they're at Lincoln Center and all that now, is jazz. That's the American art form, and it came out of the black community.
And
that's where the creative thing came from.
And there's also...
And all the various parts of show business at large
exactly.
that they informed, yeah.
But the good thing is gospel music has moved on to Lincoln Center.
They got that now? They got the tuxedo set, right?
McDonald's sponsors it, you know, and stuff. But I wanted to tell you about the traveling people who paved the way for gospel music. They traveled on a shoestring. They didn't have any food. They didn't have any gas.
In general, all of that thing is coming out of a situation where people were in the nascent stages of the development of these unique art forms that are American and that. They were in very dire circumstances, right down to where they were chattel slaves, for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So there's various ways of coping with a very, very difficult, ungodly situation, seen particularly historically. You know what I'm saying? So oppression,
that's right,
was characteristic of the environment, and there had to be a way of coping with that in order not to go stark raving crazy.
That's right. That's right. And you know, I'm going to tell you something. When I sing the blues, I get more depressed.
So you do the blues?
No, I don't. I used to.
You did blues?
Oh yeah,
did you
absolutely.
Did you gig out and stuff in clubs and stuff?
Yes. And right now, I do blues gospel.
Blues gospel.
It has the same exact tune, but the words make it gospel.
The words are very important in blues and gospel. Also the music.
That's right.
The music and the tenor and the passion and everything. I've seen an awful lot of passion come out of people doing blues. I used to have a friend, Eddie Kirkland.
It does have passion.
Did you know Eddie Kirkland? He was a blues man out of Macon.
No, I don't know.
He was my dear friend. He was so
Where
good.
Is he now?
I haven't seen him in 10 years, 15 years, don't know. Probably might have passed on for all I know, but he was so good.
Was he?
Yeah, and he had such passion, and I used to dance to his music.
Well, you can't sing blues without the passion for singing, for music.
Right. And back to that theme about coming out of a lot of suffering.
Oh, yeah.
Of just intrinsic injustice that was having to be endured.
That's right.
How in the world can people put up with
I
that.
bet you could sing the blues.
I probably could. I've had a lot of things. I'm not much of a singer. I'm Scottish. I was raised on Harry Lauder, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But I love all of that. But you did it. So you were doing that. You studied that in college and everything? You were down in North Carolina in college?
No, I didn't study.
What did you study? Did you study a course of study or something? Or take a degree?
It wasn't available to study. They didn't want...
No, I don't mean the gospel. I mean, what did you study at university? You were
well, you know what? I didn't know whatever I wanted to be.
Good, okay, you were autodidact.
They didn't offer it in college, but I went to college for learning.
What, did you study a formal course of study or no?
Just liberal arts.
Liberal arts, yeah. There's a lot to know, isn't there?
I learned how to stuff frogs and stuff,
yeah,
you know,
right,
and biology.
Right.
And to tell you the truth, I never used that in my life.
Right, but no.
You know, how to stuff frogs and...
conjugate irregular verbs endlessly, and Anyway, that's good. But you've been involved in it from the time you were 2. You
that's
say.
right.
Yeah, that's good.
That's right. And I have it in my heart. I'm very passionate about gospel and all kinds. But let me tell you what happened in I think it was in the 70s. Gospel music took another change, and it went towards disco. It was during the disco era. Gospel music had more disco influence because,
a lot of beat, a lot of rhythm.
Yeah, because the producers were spending money to produce the gospel artists, and they weren't making back the returns. So they said, we've got to do something to make it appealing to a broader audience. And that's when traditional gospel took on the disco gospel sound.
Yeah, for a commercial reason.
Yeah, and all the music was fast.
And what about when it was in the black community and Elvis broke the thing? He broke into start doing a lot of songs that were thought of as being down in Tupelo, Mississippi, thought of being black, and then he made a crossover, and all the creative stuff was going on in the black community.
Well,
and then people would call it race music or something,
well,
and then they were doing the minuet.
Yes.
The whites. They were doing a minuet and everything. And then there was a breakover and breakthrough, and all of the richness of that cultural tradition became part of rock and roll and all the variations of it.
Well, looking back during the Elvis Presley days, he used to go to a Baptist church, a black Baptist church.
Yeah.
And he would sit in the back, and he would put his hand over his mouth and mimic what he was hearing.
He was learning.
It was learning. Yeah. And some of his friends with him thought he wanted to be a black gospel singer. And so I hear that before he performed on a stage, he used to warm up with gospel music.
Well, okay.
He was influenced by it, and he loved it. You know?
Well, why not? It's a good influence.
That's right.
And it does.
That's right. The only reason that many people didn't stay in gospel because it was not
remunerative.
That's right. It didn't give them
bread to eat for the family.
That's right.
And it wasn't practical.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but now the contemporary, which had the disco influence, a lot of them are millionaires, and that was unheard of when Mahalia Jackson was alive.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we have to acknowledge the people who paved the way for gospel.
Right, it was roots of that and everything. Okay, now, among other things, we have some clips and things. I know you have a YouTube clip that I watched the other day with a friend of yours. What's her, Mildred?
Mildred Statzer.
Mildred Statzer or something. You got that. That's up on YouTube. It's a 10-minute piece. It's really good. And you told me, Gloria Messer said that they broke that thing, YouTube, that 10-minute rule?
Yeah, but that's hearsay. I don't know.
Hearsay.
You have to ask Gloria.
I hope that's true.
Ask Gloria about that.
But anyway, it's up on YouTube.
But yeah, Ready or Not, Here I Come was what my partner Mildred Statzer wrote, and it's the title of my CD, Ready or Not, Here I Come.
Okay, good term.
So that's what you see on YouTube, me performing that title song.
Now, are we going to try and show that? We're going to try and do that, or you're going to sing first too, aren't you? You can just do it.
I'll do the best I can. You know.
But we're not going to show that clip now. The thing we got to get confused.
Yeah, I know.
We're not going to show that.
But you know, it's so hard to. It's so time-consuming to try to pick.
But you are able to demonstrate in your own person. And could I do a drum roll and introduction, and then you could sing, and you have a CD with some music on it, right?
Yeah.
Is this an appropriate time maybe for you to entertain the people?
Absolutely.
Okay, well then this is her. She's going to do it, and as I understand, you got a CD. Do you want to stand up?
I would love to.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present on the center stage of the New Paltz Community Auditorium, Diane, Diane McKoy,
Diane
who is
McKoy.
going to sing, and there's going to be some music once we pump it in here, and she's going to sing for us. And Diane McKoy is the name. Stardom is in her future, and she's really a good singer. And if we could get that music pumped in here now, then if we can. There we go.
You may recall long ago there was a game we loved so. Ready or not, here I come. We would play with our friends until we had to go back to our humble home. But now my youth is gone, and I near my heavenly home, and I'm ready should life come to an end. Well, I'm waiting for the day I can hear my Savior say, ready or not, here I come. God will say, ready or not, here I come. Together is right around the throne. Will you be saved and ready to go home? When he says, ready or not, here I come. On that great and final day, God the Father will say, ready or not, here I come. Only God knows the hour he will come in his power to take his children home. Be ready for the call. It will come to one and all when he comes to take his bride home. Will you answer your name? Will you then heaven gain? Saying, ready, my Lord, here I come. God will say, ready or not, here I come. Together is right around the throne. Will you be saved, ready to go home? When he says, ready or not, here I come. Will you be saved and ready to go home? When he says, ready or not, here I come. Here I come.
All right, bravo, bravo, bravo. That was wonderful. That's really good. Now, that your song? Who made
Mildred.
it?
Mildred Statzer wrote that.
Now, talk about Mildred. Who is Mildred? And talk about her, because you all team up and everything.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's
now,
right.
Mildred's another friend of yours, right?
She's a very dear friend of mine. And she lives in the, you know, I used to call the Appalachians Appalachians.
Yeah, I used to call them, I think of
and
Appalachian.
she said to me, she says, it's Appalachian.
Well, that's old
and
English.
I said, no, we call that Appalachian. She said, well, I live in the Appalachians.
You listen to her because
and
that's
she said, wouldn't I know?
Yeah, she's right. That's the
right.
closest thing to Elizabethan English there is in the planet. It's right down there in the hills of the Appalachians.
Appalachians.
And now she's a white lady, right?
Yes, she is.
And
Caucasian.
they associate gospel with white, with black, traditionally,
well,
or
that's what
Dorsey and that.
That's what I was going to
So set us straight on where all that is, because you've got
a difference.
Country music, you got what do you call it, bluegrass and all that, and you got the banjo.
Mm-hmm.
Where does it fit in terms of the racial mix of the people who contributed to this rich culture?
You do gospel music according to your culture.
Okay, yeah.
And because your culture is different from Thomas A. Dorsey, it doesn't mean that it's not gospel music.
Right.
Because it's still about faith and uplifting and hope and everything. And the genre, the subgenre of gospel is very connected with her culture, which is where she lives is in Bristol, which is the birthplace of country music.
Okay, talk to me. We're Bristol, North Carolina?
No, Virginia.
Bristol, Virginia,
It's
the birthplace of country music. Now, there's another thing we can talk about.
That's right. Yeah. Many people thought it was Nashville.
Yeah. Well, it's got to, go ahead.
But anyway, that's the style in which she sings, is country gospel.
What's the story of the birth of country music?
Well,
you brought it up, so let's talk about it, you know. What is country music?
Country music is...
It's a big popular form now.
It is, and this kind of music is common in the South, in the white areas or the Caucasian areas.
And we had the South. We had blacks and we had whites.
Yes.
Was the music and culture different? And did they get together? They inform one another and so forth? Your lady friend Mildred is white, right?
Right.
And she's singing country music that is gospel?
Gospel music.
But it's from a white perspective?
In the country style.
In the country style.
And it's beautiful.
Okay.
And she is one of my favorite singers.
Uh-huh.
And she's one of my greatest friends. She's and she's a songwriter. She's written over 60 songs. And she's a great, and she's a multi-instrumentalist.
Wow.
She plays harmonica,
right?
Piano, auto harp.
Auto harp's beautiful, yeah.
You like that?
I do, yeah.
And she plays
12-string guitar or not?
Yes, mandolin.
Banjo?
Yes.
Banjo, all those things. You think of what's his name? The famous one with the Clearwater.
Who is that you're talking about?
Well, the famous singer that everybody knows. He did the Clearwater.
Everybody knows. What's his name?
Well, it's terrible. It's ridiculous. I know him so well. I've met him. He's a friend and everything. It was the Weavers, part of the Weavers. The Weavers were there.
His name is Clearwater?
No, the name of the boat is Clearwater, and he's the friend of the Hudson River. He lives up in Beacon, and he's...
Are you talking about Pete Seeger?
Yes, that's who I was talking about. I know the man well, I'm telling you.
Well, you know, there's a funny story about that. My group was on program with Pete Seeger.
Really?
And I play the washboard.
Oh, you do? Okay, yeah.
And so my group was behind the stage, and Pete Seeger was playing, and he came back and got me to play washboard with him, playing a banjo.
Good.
And my group was looking for me because they weren't paying attention to who was on the stage, so they kept looking everywhere. Where was this? Where was it? I forgot now.
Oh, just some stage somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, okay.
When you perform, you don't know where you were. You get them all mixed up.
You do perform a lot. Your group, we want to get to that too, but go ahead.
Yeah. But
so
anyway.
You played that washboard.
Yeah, and it was just so funny that it was just really a wonderful sound with him. He had the folk banjo, I think it was.
Yeah. Banjo is a great instrument, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the bluegrass. Now, where does the bluegrass fit into the whole opera or the whole system?
Well, it fits. It has
a lot of those sounds on your CD made me think of bluegrass.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Okay, and is that linked to the gospel?
Well, it is gospel.
Oh, it is gospel.
But it's in the bluegrass and the country genre.
All right.
And you just have to remember this, Harold. Gospel music is the biggest genre of music in America.
No kidding.
It's the biggest genre.
Really?
Absolutely.
Gospel?
Let me
As gospel. Gospel? Okay. We associate it with Baptist churches and things like that.
Well, that's the myth. It is associated, but because people have not been introduced to gospel music in the other subgenres, they think that gospel music is a black choir singing in the Baptist church.
There's some good music sung in black choirs and black churches, I'll tell you, that knocks me out.
Times Square Church is also a church that has gospel music.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, bluegrass gospel is gospel.
Okay, it is coming out of that, right?
Southern gospel is gospel.
Okay.
Heavy metal. That's heavy metal gospel.
Really?
Remember,
heavy metal gospel? These things are all blending, right?
But listen to me.
But when you say it's the largest, what did you use?
Genre.
Genre. What does that mean? In terms of record sales and some sort of sales figures? Or how is it measured? Or how do you measure that as being that way? And what about rock and roll and hip-hop and all the other jazz and all the other genres. I mean, that's an amazing thing.
But the gospel music can be done in all of those genres, which means it's the umbrella. And when you have gospel music, you can do it in a jazz subgenre.
Oh, really? Okay.
You can do it in a heavy metal.
Jazz, Stan Getz.
Gospel, you can do it in a jazz subgenre.
What makes it gospel?
The words.
The words. So that's the poetry. That's the words. That's the words. Then you got the rhythm in that. And do you write yourself? Do you compose and write, or you say Mildred does, right?
She does, but I'm not a writer. But when I was 19, I wrote a black traditional, 2 songs. I recorded them with one of the biggest gospel recording companies in New York, and they're still selling that. They're still selling it.
You can find it in the store?
Yes.
Is it up on YouTube, or is it up on the internet?
You can find it on the internet, and they listed that with the great ladies of gospel.
Really? Congratulations.
Well,
that's
thank
wonderful.
you. Well,
how many of there are in that coterie? The great ladies of gospel.
Oh, they have about, I think, about 8 to 12. But there's so
wait. 8 to 12 people?
Dating from way back. It's just somebody who made a collection of these songs. You know, you could be called the great lady of gospel.
Well, that would be a little tricky. I mean, I'd have to go through a couple of
you
operations.
were a lady.
Yeah, if I would happen to be a lady, I don't know. I mean, I would like to have a title worthy of things, but I'm not sure that's the one.
But anyway, I think it was because it was done so long ago.
In general, the artistic, we have a system of politics, economics, and everything like that, and it's a way of recognizing, let's say, artistic talent. And we recognize some. We know great actors, Katharine Hepburn, and some people are identified in that, and or Mozart. And you know, we recognize there are geniuses and all that. Do you think that the artistic capability is adequately recognized by our system, or not? There's an awful lot of people who want to be, let's say, actors, or want to be musicians, or want to be doing bluegrass, or want to be doing something creative rather than, do you understand what I'm saying? And is our system set up to recognize and really let full flower come to the expression of the culturally important things or not?
Well, I cannot let you go any further.
Okay. Okay, that's it, I give up.
I've got to talk to you. When you said Mozart, it just rang a bell for me.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There was a lady that went to the party with her husband, and it was kind of an upscale party.
Right.
And of course, the lady wanted to be considered upscale.
Yeah.
And they were talking about Mozart. And the lady said, "Oh, Mozart." She said, "I saw him this morning. He was getting on the A train to go to
go on. Yeah.
to go to Westchester." And so her husband said, "You know, you really embarrass me. You really embarrass me. Everybody knows the A train does not go to Westchester."
That's good. I like that. That's just a joke. That's not a true story.
It's just a joke.
Okay. Well, it's a good joke. Maybe we can do
like
comedy. You like comedy. There's a link between. But do we recognize the arts? And then I got my friend Willie Stooks.
Yeah,
Sherry,
Willie's great.
and Miss Barry. They do gospel stuff here. And then I'll be seeing clips that they do, and they'll have some young lady singing in a church. It's like an angel. It's beautiful. You got so much talent there within the churches. This is, Baptist is associated, but it's just beautiful, and that would be just a citizen singing.
Yeah.
But singing beautifully.
Everybody has some kind of talent to sing.
Well, some people would have more talent than others.
Well, that's true in anything.
Yeah, that's true. But does our civilization or our system recognize the talent that exists to the degree that it should be? We're all caught up on what we can do to make money or something, rather than on really singing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Van Gogh painted all those paintings down in Arles, and not one of them could sell. He couldn't make a buck at it. He couldn't eat.
Well,
so
they're now sold for millions.
Now he's recognized.
And baseball players make millions.
Well, that's true.
This
is
an art, a skill, a sport.
It is, yeah, right.
I think sometimes too much is paid to people in the arts, and sometimes it's the reverse, not enough.
There's a lot of talent in the society at the level of singing, like what you do with Mildred and that. She's really good. Now, I venture a lot of the people in the audience would not have heard of her or you in your record as they would of Mahalia Jackson. So
That's
there was
right.
a star. Or do we put too much attention on certain stars? You said Cook and that. We have certain people, or Elvis Presley.
No, because...
And then all of the talent that's there in the society, there aren't venues for the expression of it, the capability that is there, and we're not able to realize it in a democratic way that it should be recognized. Or what do you think?
We have to acknowledge the fact that there are people who paved the way for other people. Mahalia Jackson, Elvis Presley, they paved the way. And right now in New York City, whenever I am invited to sing, I bring my banjo picker.
You have a banjo picker that come and plays with you?
I have a mandolin player. And when they see me, they say, "What kind of music are you doing?" I said, "Gospel music." They said, "But where do you have a piano player?" You see, because people need to be educated. They don't understand that there is more gospel than just the traditional.
Right. You said it blends with virtually all the jazz, gospel, all that kind of thing.
I know a great jazz gospel singer. Her name is Gloria Wood. Gloria Woods. And I mean, I just can't sit here and name all the great singers who sing in certain... Ralph Stanley sings gospel music in a bluegrass form.
Okay, right.
I sing in bluegrass and country and...
You sing bluegrass, see?
Yes.
And bluegrass characteristic of certain geographical area?
That's correct.
To Tennessee or?
That's correct.
Blue tick hounds? There are a lot of blue tick hounds in bluegrass country.
I don't know what a blue tick hound...
Blue tick hound is a hound dog.
See, I'm not familiar with hound dogs.
No.
I don't know anything about catfish and hound dogs.
You're from North Carolina. But
but it's a good place to be from.
Yeah.
Away from.
But
I left as a teenager.
You left Carolina, where you came up to New York?
I came to New York, and I went to school partly in my elementary when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And my school, my class was located on the 6th floor.
Okay.
And there was no elevator.
Oh boy, it kept you exercised.
So when I went home, I lived on the 5th floor with
no
elevator.
No elevator?
And they would have 2 fire drills a day, which means you have to run all the way down to the 1st floor and back up to the 6th floor, and down again and up to the 6th floor. And then when I'd come home for lunch, I had to walk up to the 5th floor.
Boy, you got a workout.
I go back to school from lunch. I go to the 6th floor. Then when I come home, I'd go up to the 5th floor, and my mother would send me to the store. And
you have to go back there. Boy, you were running upstairs. You got a good workout. No wonder you're in such good shape. Huh?
No, that's not true for that particular situation. What is true is that if you live on the 2nd floor and I come to visit you, I want to know where's the elevator.
Right, these days, yeah.
These days,
yeah,
right.
I know what you mean. Because fortunately, you were young. Everybody's got a lot of energy. You can run endless energy when you're young and everything. The Lord seems to set things up that way.
That's right.
So you're gigging around, you're playing around. Do you get invited to sing at events and that kind of thing?
Well, I'm not taking on any gigs anymore because people, they say to me, "Oh, I thought you were going to sing like this one or that one." And what people don't realize...
You sing gently. It's gently and,
Well, that was the style I sang.
That was the style of that. Do you sometimes, in some pieces, you belt it out?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, you're right. Okay. Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But because unless people are informed of the various styles of gospel music, their minds are too limited to take in another form unless they've been educated about it. And the thing I wanted to say about that is that I don't have to tell people this, but I can tell them now because I'm on your show.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful opportunity for me to express this.
Good, do.
I don't try to be a second-rate version of anybody.
You just want to be a first-rate version of yourself.
That's right.
That's good. You got that term trademarked? You put that in a thing, your trademark and everything.
Yes. Well, no, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah, but it's a good quote.
Yeah, because
I've got a page on my website with quotes. We could add that quote.
Well, add that.
I don't want to be a second-class version of anybody.
That's
I want to be a first-class version.
Well, you know, mothers are guilty.
Yeah.
Mothers are guilty of telling their children, "Oh, I wish you were more like John. I wish you were more like her."
You think so? Yeah.
And the poor children have their own unique creativity.
Everyone does, yeah.
And
that's what I was getting at, right?
And it's not fair to the child, for the mother to try to make that child more like this one, more like that one. Who are they more like? You know, so everybody is unique. And
sometimes I think, I wish you were more like me. You know, the mother or father might say, I wish you, son, were more like moi, you know.
And they think, forget it. I don't want to be like you.
Yeah, but no, that impetus is there, isn't it? For that's people to also, they get to be more conservative, and then the youngsters are visiting, you know, doing expressive new things and everything, creative things, and everything, like those 5-year-olds again.
That's right.
They're not too terribly good. Well, anyway, that's it's a beautiful thing. What do you think? Public access is a venue for expression. I think there's tremendous talent that's existent in the human society. Like, think of all the people, the young people that want to be actors. They would like to be a movie star or something, or on theater. It's the arts, and there aren't enough venues for the expression of that. And a lot of those things about, I wish you were more like Uncle Jake or whatever, it's the parents trying to get the children to become what is called practical. That is, do something where you're going to, if you're in the arts, it's synonymous. If a young lady comes home and says, Daddy, I've fallen in love with a lovely man and I'm going to marry him and I'm so happy. And he said, well, what does he do? He's an artist. That's like saying, you're going to be poor your whole life. You're not going to have anything to eat. You're not going to have anything, because nothing goes to the artists. I mean, in anything like the proportion of its importance. It all goes to things that are practical. Get a job on an assembly line, turning a nut, be practical, learn. It's like learn to be a slave. I don't know if it's the same thing we used to have down in the fields of Mississippi. Learn to be a slave. Don't be wasting your time on something that's really creative and so forth. Do you understand what I'm saying? The message is to conform to a society where you might get a chance to have some elemental justice and a little place to live and some food to eat and your kids. It's a practical kind of thing that people have been submitted to those kind of things rather than nurturing the creative things that are there. And there aren't venues enough for the creation, the expression of the creative impulses within the human consciousness.
Well, you know, it's the unique...
Public access is a place where that can come.
That it can
And it doesn't have to be monetary.
Right, right. Okay. And it's a very good place it's a good outlet to express your creativity. And if people were not unique, if they didn't branch out to use their creativity,
it wouldn't be creative, it would be just rote.
We'd still be riding on horseback.
Yes.
But somebody stepped out and said, well, you know, let me...
try this thing.
Yeah, you know...
go ahead.
Let me tell you about Alexander Graham Bell.
All right, yeah, great inventor.
He says, you know, I have this idea to create this device so I can talk to people in another city.
Yeah.
And his wife said, well, you know, I don't think that they will be able to hear your voice that far away. And she thought her husband was some kind of a loony, you know, because you have to, if you're going to make a device where people can hear you in another city, you're going to have to up your volume.
You smoke signal, send a carrier pigeon. Yeah, or like if somebody said Orville and Wilbur, they set off. I had an interesting thing. I share it with you. It was you're gonna fly. And they say, if God or some traditional thing wanted you to fly, he would have given you wings. You would have flown like a pigeon or a blue jay or something.
But here's the thing. He gave wisdom so you could be creative.
And make a machine that'll let you fly.
That's right.
I had a friend, Reed Stowe. We did programs with a young man, or he's not so young. He's in his prime, 55 or so and everything. He's a sailor man, adventurer. He was North Carolina. He was from North Carolina, and his family had a place on the ocean there. And he went, and when he was 19, he made he's a sailor man, and he made a catamaran, sailed across the North Atlantic with no life preserver or anything. Adventure. He's 19 years old, strong, you know.
Wow.
Then he came back, and they fashioned a 70-foot gaff rig schooner out of the forest, out of the trees in the forest, and made a ocean-going schooner, called it Anne after his mother, and sailed it into the oceans of the world. He just recently, relatively recently, had sailed out on the oceans of the world with what he called the Mars Sea Odyssey.
He was on the news, right?
He's been in the news because
I saw him.
sailed for 1,152 days out of sight of land.
Yes, I saw him.
With no resupply, like a biosphere on the oceans, and came back to New York on
Trailblazer
on the 17th of June, and he was greeted by a number of people who recognized he was like an American hero. And it was interesting. We were at but he wasn't greeted. The president wasn't there, and the mayor wasn't there, and the big shots weren't there. But there were a lot of artists and people who recognized it. And there's going to be a book. And I had a friend who's
That's impressive to me.
Well, he's like a hero.
Yeah.
Like Lindbergh.
Oh.
And I had a friend, and I'm sharing this with you, it's relevant to that, a friend who does the astrovisualization in the Natural History Museum, understands the importance of planetariums as visual display screens, and they're going to merge. But anyway, he's a friend of his, and I said, well, how come when Lindbergh came back from sailing over the ocean, flying over the ocean, he was a national hero. There was ticker tape parade, the president and everything.
Yeah.
And when Reed came back, you didn't have anything like the established society greeting him as a great hero. And Reed, Carter explained to me, well, the difference is that Lindbergh was heralding a big industry that's going to come, and there's going to be a lot of people able to make money off what is called the airline industry. So there's money.
Okay.
And then when Reed's coming, he's got a sailing boat from the 19th century.
Well, you know,
do you understand?
It's worthy of taking note.
They didn't want to take note because there was no money.
I understand that.
The main thing that holds society together is money.
I understand.
And we're going to have to get over that and make it more open to creative spirits.
That's right. But there have been other people who did many great things on their own, like brave things, putting their lives at risk. And who am I to say maybe the president will honor him someday, but he's very busy.
Maybe. The president's pretty busy trying to keep the system in order.
And not only that, but this guy...
Who sailed?
Yeah.
Reed.
He's a
great guy.
I saw him on the news, and I was so impressed.
Well, thank you for the...
And he came back, and I think his wife and his child was waiting
That's
for
right,
him.
Sonia and everything,
Yeah. And I looked at him, I said, let me get a good look at this young man, because I want to see how he looks.
Well, you're going to meet him because he's
out there.
He might be at our picnic we're going to have. He's a friend. But anyway, and I wanted the world to get a good look at you, Diane McKoy.
Thank you.
And I've come to the end of the time, unfortunately. But
really?
It's been 58 minutes of talk. And
Are you serious?
Well, that's why they got the thing up on the screen with your
I had
website.
Such a wonderful time,
It was
Harold.
great talking to you. Thank you so much.
And you know, I didn't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sorry.